That was, of course, the Rolling Stones, just one of the rock and roll legends whose iconic images were captured by this man who we're so lucky to have here with us today, Baron Wolman, for Rolling Stone magazine.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here. I don't know how you get up so early every day, though.
Neither do I.
We are so excited to have you here. Your photographs have shaped pop culture, pop music, and he, of course, has immortalized these images in a new book he has, The Rolling Stone Years.
Oh,
so glad to have you this morning.
It's beautiful. This book, I mean, this is a must-have coffee table book, a book that you will read over and over and just be in awe every time you turn the page.
Actually, you said something very interesting, because you said you got to read it. You do have to read it. I know people don't read much anymore, but this book is filled with stories about behind the pictures, the stories of the pictures.
See,
you know?
And that's the exciting thing, because you look at these images and we get excited, but to see the story behind them, it takes it to a whole nother level.
I mean, when Janis Joplin came over to my studio and did a 1-hour concert for me alone, nobody knows how these pictures got made, but she came over. Yeah, she came. Yeah, you can see. But she came over to the studio because we needed pictures, and she had no concert, so she brought a microphone. I said, okay, you can lip sync if you want to. So she lip synced for about 30 seconds. And
Janis did?
Janis, but that was 30 seconds. But after that, for an hour, she sang full tilt, just like she was on for me.
Oh, I have the chills just thinking about it.
So many stories. I mean, Janis Joplin, Rolling Stones, Johnny Cash, Jimi Hendrix. I mean, it continues to go on and on.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
I was lucky, man.
Well, before we get to the stories, because we want to hear those stories, let's start at the beginning. What led you to becoming Rolling Stone magazine's chief photographer? Because what a great job.
I think the photo gods were smiling down on me. You know, what happened, 21-year-old guy named Jan Wenner had the idea to start Rolling Stone. It wasn't even called Rolling Stone. And we started talking one day, and he said, I got this idea for this magazine. What do you think? I said, sounds like a good idea, because the only publication that there was for music and music lovers in those days were the trades, Cashbox, Billboard. Who cares? You know, we want to know, what are you like? What do you do?
The in-depth, the exclusives.
So he said that was what he wanted to do. So he said, what do you think? I said, great idea. He said, well, we need a photographer. You want to be the photographer? It's like, well, sure. Why not? He said, you got $10,000 to invest? And I said, no, but I'll shoot for free in exchange for stock in the company. He said, fine. There was no company, so it was easy to say yes, right?
Wow. But you had the vision. You knew where it was going to go. You
I
just
had a sense that this was going to be pretty cool.
And you really captured the essence of what was going on in the moment.
Well, you know, here's the thing. In those days, we had access to the musicians. Listen, down the street, couple blocks away, Janis Joplin lived. In that direction, the Grateful Dead lived. Jefferson Airplane lived over there.
Gosh.
So these were people we'd see on the street. These were our friends. This was before their heads got too big. Right?
Sure.
Right.
And so and it was just easy to go and hang and take pictures, and you know,
it's exciting. Well, I have to ask you this. I mean, you mentioned Janis Joplin, which to me is just, it blows me away. But of all the people you photographed, in addition to Janis, were there any photo sessions in particular that really stand out to you when you think back?
Well, that Janis one was for sure one.
That's a good one.
Another really interesting one, Jerry Garcia, most people didn't know that, but Jerry Garcia had a piece of his finger missing.
He did.
And he came, and he never would show it on stage, you know. So he came over to the studio. We were doing the cover story on the Grateful Dead, and I brought each of the members in front of a seamless to photograph them, you know, like give them their day and their moment in the sun. And Jerry just looks up at me, and he puts his hand up like that, and there's a finger missing, and he'd never shown it to anybody. But I didn't at the time understand what that meant. I thought he was, you know, just doing something with his, like, what? And it didn't find out till about 6 months later that in fact when he was a little boy, he and his brother were chopping wood, and his brother said, here, hold this piece like this. He did, bang, went there went the finger.
And he was ready to tell the story through a picture.
Through me. And, you know,
wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, so, cool stuff like that.
Did you have a certain strategy or process when you were shooting the musicians?
Well, one of the things I did, I'd always, before I went in, I mean, unfortunately there was no Google in those days, but I'd do a little research about the people, so I'd go in and I'd have a little conversation with them, you know, and I'll tell you what I learned and in my previous life when I was a counter spy and I had to do interrogation, I learned that people's favorite subject is themselves. So you know, I'd ask them about themselves, we'd start talking, and I was really interested, and they'd relax, and as soon as they started to relax, I'd start getting some really good pictures
and
of
just
them.
taking the photos.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Now, you've had such an amazing list of people that you photographed, but are there any people that you wish you photographed that you missed out on?
Look, I photographed one Beatle. Only.
Which one?
George Harrison.
I saw George Harrison, yeah.
I wish I had photographed the other 3 Beatles.
Well, there's still a chance for
great,
Paul.
though.
Well, yeah,
right?
but 2 are gone, you know, so.
I know. Well, you never know. So
No, actually, yeah, there's only 1 gone. There are 2 more, right?
there's Paul and Ringo.
And Ringo. I couldn't I?
See? Paul,
gonna
Ringo,
call.
hello, New Mexico style, we'll give you our phone number.
Right.
Paul, we'll
Now,
put you in touch.
Exactly.
I love it. Well, I mean, it's an amazing thing just to have one Beatle even. I mean, the legends.
One Beatle.
I have to ask you this because this is something I always wanted to know.
Yeah.
When you photograph them, I know whenever I've done a photo shoot, we play music. Do you use their music when you photograph them in the background? Do you play their music?
Well, there's two ways that I shot them. One was on stage.
Okay.
When they're playing their music anyhow, right?
In
And then at their home, you know, I kind of left it up to them. You know, with Frank Zappa, for example, we went out in his backyard, with these all these tractors and road grading equipment. He starts climbing all over them, and there's no music there, but it was just Frank going wild, and I was getting all these pictures, you know.
Wow.
Love it.
Yeah.
And now you're in Santa Fe now. When did you move on from Rolling Stone?
I left Rolling Stone after about 3 or 4 years. I started a magazine called Rags, which was the Rolling Stone of fashion, which was really cool. And then I did a bunch of other stuff. And but you know, people really love these pictures. And every time I put them up on this, you know, in an exhibit or something like that, people tell the story. They I met my wife, I met my husband, Janis.
Right. Well, let's show some of these photos because I think if we're going to talk about them, we're kind of teasing to everybody out there. So let's show them some of these.
There's
pictures.
that Zappa photo.
There's the tractor.
And I mean, it was just a piece of rusting equipment sitting out in the backyard where he lived, and he just climbed up on it and decided he'd look like he was driving it.
Oh my gosh.
On and on. He did some really, and Jeff Beck,
Oh, yeah.
Jeff Beck is a great guitarist. I had no idea he was a car guy. He comes up to me, we were on tour, and he says, in San Francisco, he said, you know where I can buy a hot rod? And I said, yeah, I do, actually. And he's looking at the hot rod there, right? And about 5 minutes later, he pulls out his checkbook and he writes a check and he buys the hot rod.
Wow.
I mean, these are the stories that are in the book. That's the shot you see in the studio that was supposed to look like she was on stage. And it does, doesn't it?
It sure does.
Doesn't it? But it was in the studio for 1 hour. She was, you know, singing for me. Oh my gosh.
Oh, wow.
Oh my gosh, to have Janis Joplin singing for you. Oh my gosh.
That's my favorite. Okay,
Yes.
that's
a foxy shot.
The best. Well, it really is a classy shot. You know?
And that's the
Right
cover
there,
of the cover of your Rolling Stone.
Because it's the best actual action music photo I ever took. I mean, you can't get much better than that. That was Jimi at the peak of, you know, of a moment, and I just love that photo. And this was there's Mick on the set of Performance when, you know, after we did the you know, with Pete Townsend at the Tommy session, we went over there, and
that's the Tommy after the Tommy session.
After the Tommy session, we walked over where they were shooting. There it is.
Wow, and you captured that smile.
Well, that smile is worth $1 million, isn't it?
No kidding. No kidding.
Those lips, huh?
Well, absolutely. And when I look at this, I mean, I know what it inspires me, and I know how it makes me feel. But what is your hope that the reader gets out of looking at this book and reading it and seeing these photos?
Well, you know, here's the thing: is that, you know, like, you weren't there. Most of the people weren't there in the 60s right now who are going to look at this book. And I want them to have a window into those wonderful, innocent early moments when music was just becoming so popular, before it became huge, as it evolved, and the stories and how it happened. You know, I think they'll get that from the book.
Absolutely.
I really do.
And when you say a picture speaks 1,000 words, I mean, yours certainly do. Absolutely. I'm excited. Oh, I love it.
Yes, and people can actually get this book. We have a book signing coming up tomorrow at Andrew Smith Gallery in Santa Fe. Here's all the information right here. Saturday, August 13th, tomorrow, 2 to 5, and that is at Andrew Smith Gallery, 122 Grant Avenue, Santa Fe. So
it's going to be fun. And then afterwards, we're going to have a little after party afterwards. So you're going to have a little music. And
music. Oh, that's fun. Well,
right.
That's a good time. And certainly reading this book is a great time. And you'll never get tired of it. I promise you that much. Baron, thank you so much for being with us
today.
Thanks
for having me.
It's been a privilege, really.
So much fun.
Absolutely.
Love it.
Well, we're moving from rock and roll legends to a new generation of music makers. Coming up next, we're talking to Chase Dabney. Stick around.